Now we come into the real action. What is leukemia? And what is the real difference between leukemia and lymphoma? Because it confuses a lot of people. So who is going to tell me what is the difference between leukemia and lymphoma? Someone has an idea? Yes.
Neoplastic proliferation of the bone marrow precursors within the bone marrow is termed as leukemia, and neoplastic proliferation of the cells in the lymph nodes will be.
No, this is not very clear cut. Yes. What is the difference in lymphoma and leukemia? Are they two different diseases, or maybe sometimes they are same disease? They are different diseases. Okay, you are an old student. Yes.
Sir, lymphoma is basically it's a neoplastic proliferation of lymph nodes.
Lymph nodes. Okay, my friend has given a very strange definition. He says lymphoma is the proliferation of neoplastic proliferation of lymph node. It is wrong. Remember that. Yes.
So lymphoma is basically disease of lymphatic system. Sir.
Okay, he came up with very unusual definition. He said lymphoma is a disease of lymphatic system, and then leukemia is what? Yes, doctor. I'm very sensitive. Every good doctor should be very clear concept between lymphoma and leukemia, because the modern classifications of lymphomas and leukemias, they have been totally changed. Why? Because many lymphomas are like leukemias and many leukemias are like lymphoma. I will explain why. But let me tell. Yes, doctor. You have any idea what is lymphoma and leukemia difference?
It's the proliferation of lymphocytes.
Okay. Okay. My friend came another weird classification. He says lymphoma is proliferation of lymphocytes and leukemia is proliferation of. Okay. So my friend was saying that leukemia is the lymphoma is the proliferation of lymphocytes. Have you heard lymphoblastic leukemia? It means lymphoid system can give a leukemic situation also. Am I right, doctor? So it means not anyone who is really clear.
Neoplastic proliferation of the cells within the lymphoid organs.
My friend, I think I should start telling you. You are telling me some things which I never thought in my life, right? Let me tell you now. I will really go into detail of leukemia and lymphoma, and more than that, I will tell you what is the real difference in them. Rather than telling you difference, it is more important to tell what is similarity also.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not your fault if you feel depressed, you cannot tell, because many young doctors or even old doctors, they are not very clear. It is not their fault. Actually, concept is so fastly evolving, right? It's difficult to keep a pace with that. So now we are going into this game, that what is the real difference between, yes, leukemia and lymphoma. Okay, before really I go into such a detailed high-class medical discussion, I want to put a very simple question. Do you know the difference between milk and butter? Yes, anyone who does not know the difference between milk and butter? Everyone knows.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the only difference between leukemia and lymphoma. I will tell you. Leukemia spread like milk. I will explain how. And lymphomas are just like a piece of butter cake, right? Okay, let's talk about it. This is bone marrow house, right? This is bone marrow house, right? And here is your peripheral circulation, and of course you have lymphoid tissue like thymus, and there are lymph node, and there is, yes, your friend spleen, and here is liver, right? Now, what is leukemia? Leukemia is, yes, neoplastic proliferation of hematopoietic precursor cells. Now listen carefully. It's not enough. Just listen first. Don't write. Leukemia is what? Neoplastic, which is always what? Malignant. Neoplastic proliferation of hematopoietic precursor cell. Now hematopoietic precursor cells may be myeloid or may be lymphoid. Hematopoietic precursor cell, what are those precursor cells? Hematopoietic precursor cells are those precursor cells which make the blood cells. Is that right? Hematopoietic precursor cells. Here is, suppose, hematopoietic precursor cell or stem cell, then progenitor cells. Eventually they go into two lines. They go into what? Lymphoid line and myeloid line. They go into lymphoid line and myeloid line. But these cells, these early cells, these are called hematopoietic precursor cells. When hematopoietic precursor cells become malignant, right, then these leukemias can form. Now what really happens? That the special feature of leukemia is that when this cell, normally these cells proliferation is well controlled and well regulated. Normally proliferation of hematopoietic cells is well controlled and well regulated. When you need more cells, they over proliferate. When you need less cells, they under proliferate. You know that, isn't it? Now, but in neoplastic proliferation, they are undergoing excessive proliferation, uncontrolled, unregulated proliferation, unneeded proliferation. Is that right? Due to that reason, they make excessive cells. Now listen very carefully. Normally what happens, imagine this cell, if it is normally proliferating, it will proliferate, make a hematopoietic tissue in the bone marrow, and then as needed, cells will be spilling into circulation. Of course, lymphocytes will go to the thymus or other tissues, they undergo processing there and they become mature there. Is that right? Now, if these malignant cell, this is the point to understand, if this malignant cell is like spread like a milk, if you put a glass of milk, it will spread all over. It will, if you throw the milk here, it will spread all over. Okay, let me show. This is a glass of milk and I'm pouring here. This is milk coming. Now it will proliferate everywhere. So then it will spill over into circulation.
Yes.
Right? So if leukemic cells, now listen careful, or malignant cells, the right term should, if the malignant cells diffusely involve the bone marrow, and they have a tendency eventually to spill into circulation, they are behaving in a milky way. This type of behavior shown by such malignant cell is called leukemia. So what is leukemia? When hematopoietic precursor cells, it does not matter they are myeloid line or lymphoid line, it does not matter. Don't tell me lymphoma is lymphoid and leukemia is myeloid. No. Just remember, if these, malignant hematopoietic precursor cells undergo malignant transformation, right? And after undergoing malignant transformation, they are no more sticky to each other. Sometimes cell becomes sticky. They are no more sticky to each other. They are not holding the hands. They just start spreading here and there in the bone marrow and then jump into circulation. We say this cell has undergone what? Leukemic situation. So it will clinically present as leukemia, because clinical presentation of leukemia is associated with bone marrow failure due to diffuse spread of, not localized, diffuse spread of leukemic cell in the bone marrow and then jump into circulation. Is that right? Now imagine another situation. Same cell undergo malignancy. Listen. Now second situation. Now butter cake. Same cell undergo what? Malignant transformation. But these malignant cells love each other, hold the hands of each other and don't leave each other. And they are very reluctant to leave each other. And they stay at some place, for example, like this. Or, for example, this malignant cell go into circulation, 1 or 2, and it resides over here. And it make a mass here. Now this is making a discrete mass. It's making a well-defined mass. It is making a clear-cut mass. And they refuse to jump into circulation in big number. They may go into circulation in very small number to metastasize and infiltrate other tissues. But they don't massively jump into circulation. So these are the loving malignant cells. They have a mutual love. They make a discrete mass. They make a diffuse spread. They are just like a piece of butter, right? This is called lymphoma. The real difference between leukemia and lymphoma is the way they spread and clinically present. The latest concept is, I will go to more detail of this. First of all, listen. When hematopoietic precursor cells become malignant, if they diffusely spread into bone marrow and eventually have a tendency to jump into circulation, they are not in love with each other. They are not in love with each other. They are just like, right? And these non-living, disloyal cells spreading here and there, right? These are leukemic cells. But if the same cell, right, are loving each other and they're sticky to each other, right, and they don't like to go to the blood and move all about the body, and they wherever they are produced, they remain into very big mass, and even one of them come out. From here, it goes to suppose spleen or liver or GIT or to the brain. There, it proliferate, and again all the descendant cells love each other and make a well-defined, clear-cut mass like a piece of butter. Then we say this is lymphoma. That is why lymphoid tumors, lymphoid neoplasia can be leukemic, can be lymphomatous. The real difference in leukemia and lymphoma is the way they spread and behave. Is that clear?
Wonderful.
So this is clear. So again, I will say the real difference between leukemia and lymphoma is the difference of milk and butter. If malignant cell, hematopoietic precursor cells become malignant and like a butter cake, they remain sticky and make a well-defined discrete mass in any tissue. This well-defined discrete mass of lymphoma may be in lymph node, it may be in the liver, spleen, maybe in bone marrow, maybe in the brain, maybe in GIT or anywhere in the body. But when they are making a well-defined mass, this is lymphoma. And lymphoma, in lymphoma case, lymphoma cells don't come into blood in very high number. Is that right? Any question up to this? Now, if I say, I have one person here on my right hand, okay, this is one person and this is another person. In this person, hematopoietic precursor cells become malignant and widespread in bone marrow. I know I'm putting a lot of time, and also circulate in high number in the blood. What is this? Leukemia. And here also same cell become malignant, but one thing, they have a lot of sticky molecules adhesive with each other, making well-defined discrete mass. What is that?
Lymphoma.
Lymphoma. Thank you very much for understanding it. But I will still elaborate it further. Even though I tried to tell you there's a lot of difference between leukemia and lymphoma, but in modern medicine practice, the differences are getting blurred. You know why? Because sometimes in some patient, disease start as leukemia. When patient come to the doctor, he has all the features of leukemia. Bone marrow is hypercellular with diffuse spread of the malignant cells. And in the blood there is a lot of white blood cells. Patient come to you as leukemia, but after, as disease is passing by over the months, suddenly you find a one lymph node very big and large. What has happened? Patient originally had leukemia. Maybe some leukemic cell went to a lymph node. There it decided that I will proliferate, but all the children of that cell, the progeny of that cell, they decided to make a living family and they stick there. What they have given rise to?
Lymphoma.
So milk converted into
Butter.
So we can say that originally disease, when it presented, it was leukemia, but sometimes in patient with the leukemia, over the time they can make a lymphoma mass. Am I clear?